Kenny Pickett revealed some very interesting stuff about his football IQ that went into the Colts win the Steelers had. We'll talk about that, what other teammates have said things about him, and of course, our picks. Of course, when I say we, it's myself, Chris Carter, host of Locked On Steelers, joined by Jenna Harner, Channel 11 WPXI. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So as you can find the show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on the video if you enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. As I said before, Jenna Harner rejoins us on the show. Jenna, how you doing on a Friday?
Happy Friday, Chris. It feels kind of weird this whole week. I've been very thrown off. Monday night games will do that to you.
It ruins everything.
I've been thinking every day is a day behind. So I'm like, oh, we're already on Friday? Okay, great. This is fantastic.
Indeed. It is kind of nice to have the shorter week there. But let's talk about something that did happen Monday. Now, Mason Cole revealed when talking with reporters this week that Kenny Pickett was the person who kind of called the Benny Snell touchdown run. And said that he was the guy that kind of did it. Kenny Pickett, did reveal there was a conversation that happened there on the Steelers sideline, talking. When he talked about it, when he was asked about it, Kenny Pickett said, basically he had an idea. It was something that he got based off of just watching film on the Colts defense. They had been really good against the pass in the red zone, but they had struggled to stop the run when they've been spread out. So the Steelers do exactly that. They spread their guys out. He says that, they've been paying attention to me because of my ability to run. And he says we had pretty good play if Benny could get to the left side, and it worked well. A lot of teams try throwing it on them and down there, and they're not successful. Watching the film, it looked like in a spread set, a lot of teams would have a lot more success running the football. So I added my legs as something that could occupy at least one guy. And luckily we had two guys that were waiting for me on the read, and Benny just walked into the end zone. So it was a great play. That takes so much foresight from a rookie quarterback who's dealing with so many other things in a struggling offense. I know it's just one example of a red zone running play, but this is the kind of football IQ stuff that the Steelers have been looking for and we're talking about when they drafted Kenny Pickett.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And just, the initial, him talking about the way he studied this defense, that goes back to something big that we talked about after the Philadelphia loss, where he was saying, we all need to study the playbook more, calling guys out, quote unquote, in that sense, but then taking that leadership and saying it starts with me. And this is not only him proving that, but it's also showing, like you said, exactly that football IQ that the Steelers wanted out of their potential next franchise quarterback. And by no means am I saying, yes, crown Kenny Pickett that guy right now, but this is, as a Steelers fan, the development you want to see from your rookie quarterback here, especially just in being able to read the defenses better, because that, again, his situation he was thrown into earlier in the season, he was, thrust into the Jets game in the middle of the game, then finally got, a full week with the starters and things on those lines. But he's still building a lot of things that rookie quarterbacks need to build. But you're seeing this and you're seeing, okay, yes, this is exactly what he's supposed to be doing, but it's a great thing that he's doing it.
Yeah. It's a great thing, and then you want him to be able to use his football IQ in these moments. But again, I think a big thing about this is that this is the Kenny Pickett that I talked about when I covered Pitt football. Mm-hmm. He studies. He's a football lifer. He breathes football. He eats football. He sleeps football. He is watching what's going on, and the fact that he's able to see these things shows there's work that he's putting in. Even as a rookie, there's no pressure on Kenny Pickett to be a Joe Wiz kid right now. He's kind of out there. If he messes up each week, the Steelers are going to give him another shot next year and the year after that. But you can see he's definitely putting in the work in the film room, the classroom, and taking it out onto the field.
And he's also showing the leadership, and his guys behind him, the veterans and some of these older guys on the offense, trust him because they're trusting him to make these decisions and to say, hey, we're having these conversations where I'm going to pull up the transcript, so I'm not misquoting it, but, where he's saying, talking about the guys, if there's a zone read, they're concerned with me. They had a guy on the second level waiting for me as well. A lot of teams are trying to throw it there and aren't being too successful. He's like, hey, look, I have a feeling we can find success against these guys in this situation. And we saw how it worked. And we saw Kenny Pickett lead his offense down the field for his first fourth quarter game-winning touchdown drive of his career. And I'm sure we're going to see more of those from Kenny Pickett just because of, the law of averages in terms of whatever your feelings are, if you love him or if you're like, I don't think this is the guy that we want to have. But this is something, again, when you're looking at those building blocks and you're looking at, is he taking steps as a rookie? This is something you're seeing where you're like, okay, this shows progress in some of these areas because he's able to see the defense, read the defense, say, hey, look, I remember when I was watching film and I saw a lot of teams try to throw in this situation. It didn't work well. And this is also too, we don't, there's some context loss a little bit. So we don't know if it was just like in his brain all at once or if it was something he was noticing as the game kind of progressed. But he made that quick decision and he said, hey, this is something that's going to work. And it did.
Yeah, indeed. And again, like you said, this doesn't mean that he's arrived or anything like that, but these are signs of progress that I think really go to the side that he's putting everything into it right now. And you're not seeing a first round guy just taking for granted the fact that he was drafted in the first round, that he's got basically 4 years and he'll probably have a 5th-year extension to do whatever he wants and become the player that he thinks he can be. I think it's a very good sign for the Steelers quarterback situation and what they thought they were getting in Kenny Pickett. We'll talk about what we see with Kenny Pickett coming with the Falcons game in a bit here. But first, we got to get to our week 13 predictions and updating our players pick and pool and how everyone's been doing in the Locked On Steelers League that we've been had going on. But first, before we do any of that, we got to talk to you guys about PrizePicks. PrizePicks, of course, is daily fantasy made easy. What you do with PrizePicks is you come out, you're picking 2 to 5 players and whenever you're playing. If you think you have a beat on their day in fantasy, all you have to do is say they're going to get more or less than a certain stat projection that PrizePicks has given you. This isn't daily fantasy where you're picking up against millions of people. You're just trying to beat the PrizePicks projection. And you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry when you play PrizePicks because it's that fun and that easy and that simple. PrizePicks doesn't just include the NFL. There's NBA, NHL, college sports, World Cup, and so much more. Go download the PrizePicks app today or go to prizepicks.com to sign up to play daily fantasy sports. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, all one word, all capital letters when you go to the PrizePicks app or prizepicks.com. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter. She's Jenna Harner, and it's a Friday episode, which means it's time to talk about our picks. And once again, Jenna is still in the lead, ahead of me by 2 games. It ain't right, man. I'm supposed to be catching up to her by now. She's doing all these dances over here on YouTube. This is ridiculous. I can't stand any part of you, Jenna. But
that's all right. This is a weird week too. I feel like there could be some separation this week. I'm just saying.
There could be. We'll see what our picks are just to update the group. Thank you for all the over 200 people who participate in our weekly Pick'em League. Still, we have people that are really in close there. We got 3 people tied for 3rd place, but in 2nd place is Double Yoy with 113 wins. Yap and Yinzer, though, holds on to 1st place with 117 wins. Jenna, you are still on that first page, I believe. You were at 23rd overall. You have 107 wins, so you're 10 points off the 1st place. I have 105. I'm right behind you. I'm going to catch you though. I'm going to catch you.
Right there.
So let's get into this. Let's go to, again, we always skip our Thursday night game because it's the Friday episode, but let's start with a 1:00 game. The Broncos at the Ravens. The Ravens suffered a really big upset last week with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence throwing down the field. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson is fighting his own players. I know the Ravens have been on the struggle bus, but I'm still going to take Baltimore in that situation.
Yeah, me too. What was that report I saw that there was something with like a birthday party and only half the team got invited or something? I'm like, this is honest to God, like 1st grade. This is 1st grade. And yeah, any sort of turmoil, you're just like, the Broncos, there's just been so much talk about them and, Russell Wilson not panning out or not having a season I think anybody anticipated at all. I'm going with Baltimore.
Packers, Bears. Typically, this would just be, hey, the Packers going to beat up on the Bears. But it looks like Justin Fields might return for this game. Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers has been struggling, but I'm still taking the Pack, though. I think this is the one thing that Aaron Rodgers wants to do is he just wants to beat up on the Bears. Then he'll call it a season and say, Jordan Love, you can take him the rest of the way. But what say you, Jenna?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case too. It's definitely optimistic that the Bears are getting Justin Fields back. But actually, I think the Packers looked pretty solid against the Eagles last Sunday night.
They gave him a fight.
They really did. So, and I think what we saw too, again, small sample size from Jordan Love, but that really nice touchdown play, just things that they can build on too. But yeah, I'm going with the Packers in this one. Aaron Rodgers versus the Bears. He just doesn't seem to lose those games.
2 4-7 teams. The Jaguars at the Lions. The Lions have pulled up some upsets, but the Jaguars have 2. I'm going with the Jaguars because I like Trevor Lawrence. I think him and Travis Etienne and Christian Kirk and that whole crew, they're going to be putting up points. The Lions will make this a fight. This is going to be really close. The Lions almost put off the unthinkable and beating the Bills last week, but I think that they, even though they've had the long week off, I think this is going to be a game where the Jaguars get the best of them. But what do you got here, Jenna?
See, we do have a split here, and this one, there's so many games like this where I'm like, either of these two teams could give a logical argument to win this game. I'm going with the Lions. I really liked what I saw from them on Thanksgiving. I think they've been building a lot of things well. Yes, they did snap their, I believe it was 3-game losing streak, or winning streak. I'm sorry, but I seem so used to saying losing streak. 3-game winning streak. Detroit. I know, but it's great to see that there's some optimism there, and it's great to see that team, especially that defense, is figuring some things out. So I'm going with the Lions, but yeah, I think this is an intriguing game here.
Browns at Texans. The Browns have been bad. They got a big win last week, but they're 4-7, but they're facing the 1-9-1 Texans. The Texans are doomed to have the first overall pick. I'm going with the Browns.
Yeah, I'm going with the Browns too. And obviously there's so much talk this week, obviously with Deshaun Watson's return and the fact that some of his accusers will be in a suite at this game, which I absolutely commend them for doing. I think this is just everything with that situation aside. I think this game, there's so much surrounding it, but just looking on paper at who has the better football team, I think the Cleveland Browns are a better football team.
The Jets at the Vikings. The Vikings 9-2. The Jets a surprising 7-4. I like what the Jets have done on defense. Mike White came in and showed that they really didn't need Zach Wilson, but I think they're going to need some actual good quarterback play to win this week. That's why I'm taking the Vikings at home.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings too. I'm really excited to see Sauce Gardner and Justin Jefferson kind of battle it out in the backfield and see, or not the backfield, but battle it out deep down the field. And
there you go.
There we go. I'm so used to, we're getting back. I think I'm still sleepy from Monday night. But no, I'm excited to kind of see that battle. But I just think the Vikings, yes, I like what the Jets have been doing on defense. And yes, Mike White did kind of give them a little bit of spark offensively. But I just like what the Vikings do as a team as a whole. I think they have a more explosive offense. And I think that's going to be the case on Sunday.
The Washington Commanders at 7-5 visit the 7-4 Giants. The G-Men, Jenna, your G-Men have done well this season. They're 7-4. They're in the mix, but so has the rest of the NFC East. And the Commanders, they were the one team I thought would be still at the bottom of the barrel, but now they're back. They're playing well on defense. I'm actually going with Washington on this one. I'm picking them on the road. I admit, I've been influenced by you to never believe in the Giants because they burned me as a picker. They burned you as a fan. I'm with. Are you with me here? Are we both picking Washington?
That we are. The Giants fan is not picking the Giants this week. This one, I am going to be intrigued to see how these two teams match up and what the Giants can do. I am going to be honest. I didn't get to see a ton of. I saw the second half against the Cowboys because Thanksgiving dinner. You're not leaving my boyfriend's parents and his wonderful family to go watch the football game at the dining room table. When they say dinner's at 5:00, you're sitting down for dinner at 5:00. But I had that feeling things were Dallas is a good team, and I think Washington is too, but I think that Washington just has a slight edge here.
This is my number 2 game of the week. I'll even say number 3 game of the week, but it could be interesting. The 7-4 Titans at the 10-1 and 10-1 Eagles. The Titans, they perplex me at times. There's times I think they're really good, and then there's times they just fold in big moments. The Eagles have been a more consistent team, so I'm going to take them, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans pulled this off somehow.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be kind of too nitty gritty down in the trenches, just like a battle between these two teams. And I love that. I am super pumped and I'm here for it. you see ups and downs with the Titans, like with what you were saying. They looked really good against the Chiefs with Malik Willis in, and then they did not look great last week against the Bengals. I have to go with the Eagles in this one just because I think they have more talent, and I think that their offense can put together a more complete game. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans make this really interesting.
It looks like it pains you to say anything positive about a Philadelphia team there.
That it does.
Moving along, 4:00 game, 6-5 Seahawks at 3-8 Rams. The Rams have been a disaster this year. Matt Stafford's been hurt now. Aaron Donald's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Cooper Kupp's hurt. I'm just picking the Seahawks just default. This is the Rams. This is just not their year.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate too to see how they came off the Super Bowl, and this is like the epitome of a hangover, and then everybody's getting injured while they're hungover. So I'm going with Seattle as well. I think they've been playing pretty solidly. Last week, I believe they lost. Yeah, that was they went to overtime against the Raiders and lost. But you're going to have some games like that. There's going to be some flukes. I do think though Seattle's offense, I like them better in this matchup too.
Interesting matchup here. The 8-3 Dolphins face the 7-4 Niners. These are two very different styles of team. The Niners are more defensive and run the ball and try to catch you off guard with their run concepts. The Dolphins want to air it out. They want to hit on the big plays and let their receivers go flying. But I'm going with the Dolphins. I know that they're going from the East to the West Coast, but I think that the Dolphins on the road can kind of hit on some of these big plays, and they'll force Jimmy Garoppolo to be more aggressive, and that'll allow their defense to make some big plays. But what say you, Jenna?
Yeah, I think for me, this is so interesting because it's a team that's so offensively minded and versus a team that's so defensively minded. And those are kind of both of their identities. I just like what Miami's been doing. I mean, there's a reason they got flexed into Sunday night. There's people want to see this team. There was the whole really amazing report over the weekend where Tua Tagovailoa, I guess all during the offseason, had asked Mike McDaniel, he's like, do I suck? Do I suck? Everybody's saying it. And McDaniel put together, I think it was like a 700 play compilation of all the times Tua's looked fantastic. It's been like, watch this. Do you think you suck? And then just having that type of coach work with a quarterback who clearly needs those types of things, I think this has done great for Tua's development. We've seen a lot of that, and I think that continues. I think this Miami Dolphins offense continues to be explosive.
The 6-5 Chargers, the 4-7 Raiders. The Raiders have started off terrible, but it looks like they've started to find their stride a bit. And I'm going to go pick the Raiders here. I know this is an upset pick here, but the Chargers have just been so inconsistent, and I think the Raiders are feeling a bit of a hot streak. Josh Jacobs went for 300 all-purpose yards last week. I think that they have a similar performance this time around, and the Raiders get a big win. But what say you, Jenna?
I'm going the opposite. I'm going with the Chargers. Both of these teams, I don't entirely know. They've had some great wins. They've had some wins or some losses that you're just like, what the heck is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the Chargers just because I feel like, both these teams, again, have been inconsistent, but I think the Chargers to me have just a little more consistency. I know the Raiders are starting to put things together a little bit, but I think that they've dug themselves in too deep of a hole, and I'm going LA.
Game of the week here, number one right here. It's the Chiefs at the Bengals, the rematch of the AFC Championship game. There's been some chirping too. Justin Reed has been talking about how he's been talking trash and how they were talking trash and how Hayden Hurst fired back at him and said you would never talk trash to my face. All this other stuff. It's been wild. Both of these teams don't like each other. The Bengals are at home 7-4. The Chiefs are, and they're on a crazy streak. They started 0-2. They're now 7-2 after that to get to 7-4. The Chiefs, though, they're 9-2, and they look consistent. I'm taking Kansas City. I think that their passing game will do enough in this game. I think that the Bengals, they fooled Patrick Mahomes last year. I don't know if they're going to get that luxury again. They fooled him twice last year, and they kept him in check in times when normally he would have gone off. I don't think that they do that this year. I think they put up some big points. It's a good one, though. It's a shootout. I just see the Chiefs coming out on top. What say you, Jenna?
Yeah, I'm so excited to watch this game. This is going to be a fun game to watch both of these offenses try and attack each other and see who is going to come out on top. I do think it's going to be the Chiefs just because I think that that Chiefs team, especially Patrick Mahomes, they love getting up for good games. They love having that type of all right, my quarterback's better than your quarterback. We're going to show you, because some people think that that's not the case. And I think that that's going to be just an offensive explosion from Kansas City. I think both of these defenses are going to be absolutely gassed by the time this game is done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really, really excited to see how this game turns out. But I'm going with the Chiefs. I think it'll be close and it will be high scoring.
Sunday Night Football, Colts at Cowboys. The Colts, they've been interesting with Jeff Saturday, but the Cowboys are going to win this one. They're just the better team. I see them winning at home.
100%. We saw the Colts up close and personal, and I swear to God, for the first half of that game last week against the Steelers, I thought every pass Matt Ryan was throwing was going to be intercepted. That was watching. I'm like, what? I'm not going to say I could have thrown better because I do not have quarterback throwing skills, but it's just one of those you look at that, you're like, what? You just are like, what? Second half, obviously things were different, but yeah, the Cowboys to me, just a much better team, much better offense, much better defense. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see Micah Parsons have some fun with that Colts offense.
And finally, Monday Night Football, Buccaneers at 5-6 host the 4-8 Saints. The Saints got shut out last week. I think they're in for a similar fate this week. I don't think it's shut out again, but I think the Buccaneers defense does enough to win in the end. Look at Tom Brady and the Buccaneers surging here late in the season. They could be, if they win this game, they're 6-6, and all of a sudden they're right on top of that NFC South and priming for a home playoff game.
The fact that the Bucs are leading the division right now at 5-6 tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, I just the Saints to me, the Bucs are, both of these teams are not fantastic by any means, but the Saints to me are definitely the worst pick of the two. I'm going with Tampa Bay in this one. Tom Brady will not lose this game.
We're going to come right back to Steelers Falcons, give you our predictions and what we see coming in this game. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Audible. Audible is releasing a new slate of football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. You can find Think Like a Champion now wherever you get your podcast. Think Like a Champion is a brand new podcast from Russell Wilson and Audible. Russ is a champion on the field, but off of it, we rarely know the grind on the path to greatness. Russell Wilson, alongside co-host Harry Wilson and the late Trevor Moawad, digs into how high-performance athletes, artists, and leaders push the boundaries of their potential. Here, two-time Super Bowl champion and MVP Von Miller delivers sharp insights about performing at your highest level in moments of extreme pressure, or NCAA champion Tim Tebow discuss how to find your unique personal mission in the world. Head over to Locked On Presents for a sneak peek of Think Like a Champion, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcasts, available everywhere right now. And Audible, get in the game. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm Chris Carter. She's Jenna Harner. It's time to talk Steelers Falcons. Jenna, this is going to be an interesting game. The Falcons and the Steelers, both are teams that would prefer to run the ball for success. Both teams struggle to stop the pass, but the Steelers have been a better rushing defense. The Falcons have been a below average rushing defense in the NFL. And I think that could play a big factor in it. But as you know, we don't just want our final scores. We want our biggest factor to the game, where the turning point hits, and what is the final score. Jenna, hit us what you think is the biggest factor that comes into play here.
I think the biggest factor is going to be something we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, but can this offense continue to take strides? I feel like the last 3 weeks, and yes, I almost want to throw the second half of the Bengals game out, but I feel like what we saw against the Saints, what we saw in the first half against Cincinnati, and then what we saw, especially the way that the Steelers were able to kind of flip the script in the second half against the Colts, where they had the 3 and outs, and then Kenny Pickett leads them on that long touchdown drive. You're seeing more things to look at this offense and say, okay, this is things that this team can build on. So if they're going to continue to run the ball the way that they have been running the ball, they're going to continue to be able to open up things where they can find receivers in the passing game, the way that George Pickens is making some catches, things along those lines. And I think this bodes really well in the Steelers' favor. So I think if they can continue just for the run game to get going, and again, you're going against a run defense that's not spectacular, and a pass defense that's not spectacular. So you have the opportunities here as this offense to say, hey, look, we can build on a lot of the things that we built on last week. So I think it's going to come down to offensive consistency. I feel like I've said that a lot, but can this offense continue to take steps forward? Can they, if they have a 3 and out, back-to-back 3 and outs, can they stop it there and say, hey, we're still going to march down the field. We're going to figure out ways to keep our defense off the field, because you saw immediately after they scored that touchdown drive, I believe the Colts went 3 and out.
Yep. They put pressure on them.
Yeah, if you can give your defense the rest, then all of a sudden you're seeing a lot more good things. So I think that's going to be it. I think the turning point is going to come from a defensive turnover because we know that the Steelers defense has been doing some great things. Alex Highsmith getting the strip sacks. I still can't get over also Chris Wormley out muscling Matt Ryan for that football because
that was impressive.
Matt Ryan dove on the ball and I'm like, okay, whatever, they fumbled, but he's on it. And then all of a sudden Wormley's jumping and running out of the pile with it. You're like, what? How did that happen? So there's going to be a play like that just because I don't think this Falcons defense is incredible, or excuse me, this Falcons offense is, this incredible talent by any means. They're good, but they're not anything like to write home about in that way. Don't take my words against me and use them, people, in that way. I'm just saying that, they're not, in my opinion, the Chiefs or the Bengals, things along those lines. So I do think the Steelers add another win in the win column this week. I think they win this one. I'm going to go 27-17.
Okay.
Yeah, 27-17 is where I think this is going to happen. I think the Steelers are going to win this one.
I hear you there. I'm in a similar boat with you. I think the Steelers offense does have to make plays, but I think one thing that has to happen in this game is the Steelers' strength right now, stuffing the run, has to come to fruition. The Falcons are built on running the football, whether it's Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, or Marcus Mariota. Get them out of there. Stop them, force them to third and longs, force Marcus Mariota to beat you with his arm. If you force that enough, he's going to make the mistakes. Your secondary has been very advantageous this year. Let them make the plays. Let those guys make it happen. The offense will eventually figure it out. I think Falcons do not have a good defense at all. They're mediocre to bad even. So if I'm the Steelers, if I get my run defense in, they win. That's going to set up the pass rush. It's going to set up the pass defense to make big plays in the end and limit the Falcons on their side of the ball. And then, like you said, all they need is some offense. It's going to happen. I too think it's going to be a late turnover that starts to tick the favor in the Steelers. Whoop! Knocked my mic over there. But I do think it's going to be the Steelers pulling it out there with a way of being able to get a turnover late. I'm saying though 23-17. I think that the Steelers get some late field goals. That's what puts them over the top in the long run there. But both of us have the Steelers winning, so it's going to be interesting to see how it does play out and if the Steelers get the stops on defense. But as always, thank you so much for checking out the Locked On Steelers podcast. Jenna, people know you can find you, follow you, get more of your work.
You can find me on Twitter at Jenna Harner 11 if it still exists whenever this comes out on Friday. You can find me on Instagram, Jenna_Harner, and on WPXI channel 11. Doing all the stuff. We will have coverage from Atlanta this weekend, and we'll be hopefully we're talking about a Steelers win next week.
Absolutely. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Check me out on the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette at post-gazette.com. You can also check out this show, Locked On Steelers, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Thanks so much for checking us out. Back on your screens Sunday night after the game, breaking down what happened with Steelers versus Falcons.